Welcome into the Belly Up MMA Show. Tonight we are previewing and picking the entire card for UFC Fight Night Vegas 22. Thank you for tuning in. Today, the MMA show, the Belly Up MMA Show, presented by Manscaped, is here with us tonight. And you can find more information at bellyupfantasysports.com. And always thankful that for Belly Up Fantasy putting on this program of the Belly Up MMA Show. And again, tonight we are presented by Manscaped. Proper grooming requires precision engineered tools. Not only does a man's sensitive areas require it, but hygiene demands it. Combining third-generation innovations and design, power, and hygiene, the Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer with skin-safe technology is the perfect tool for an incredible grooming experience. The diamond-textured no-slip grip, LED light, and compact design help you navigate all your nooks and crannies. Visit manscaped.com and use promo code BELLYUPFANTASY to get 20% off your next order. That's right, manscaped.com. And when you're checking out, use the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY to get 20% off your next order at Manscaped. Excited to have them with us, partnering on the Belly Up MMA Show. Tonight, we've got a great card ahead of us. Of course, it is headlined by Derek Brunson versus Kevin Holland. The co-main event of Gregor Gillespie versus Brad Riddell has been postponed due to COVID protocols. That one is going to be moved back more than likely a couple weeks before we see that one go out. So now we are down to 10 fights on the night. We have 5 UFC debuts, 8 weight classes being shown tonight, 10 fights. We had 6 cancellations, make that 7 cancellations. 3 of those 7 were replacement fights, so they were able to find people in. We'll talk more about that as the night goes on. Of course, some crazy stuff happening this week in the weigh-ins. Julia Stolyarenko, she fainted 2 times during the weigh-ins. And, of course, it was kind of a little bit of a controversy. Why in the world did the UFC let her get back on the scale the second time after passing out? Actually, it wasn't the UFC. It was the Nevada board. But nonetheless, they got back up on the second one. She weighed in. She made weight. As she stepped off, she passed out a second time as well. According to her, she said she had actually made weight too early. She was at weight 4 hours prior to the check-ins and already in a bad state at that point because your body's in dehydration and things like that. So she just made weight too fast. Basically, she said she's feeling great now. Could have actually fought on Saturday had they allowed her to. But with everything going on, they decided to cancel that. So that one is off the card as well. On the main card tonight, like we already said, it's headlined by Derek Brunson and Kevin Holland. Now Cheyenne Baez and Montserrat Ruiz will follow, or will be right before them. Adrian Yanez versus Gustavo Lopez is in there. Song Kenan versus Max Griffin. And the first fight of the main card will be Tai Tuivasa and Harry Hunsucker. We'll talk about that one in a minute. Harry is basically my neighbor, living very close to where I live. We've talked with them on the Sports Stove podcast before, and so we've got some insight for you on that fight. On the prelim card, we're going to start off with Bruno Silva versus JP Baez. Of course, JP and Cheyenne are husband and wife and fighting on the same card tonight. Montel Jackson will take on Jesse Strader. Trevin Giles versus Roman Delice. And then Leonardo Santos versus Grant Dawson. And Marion Renaud versus Macy Chasson. We'll close out the prelim card tonight. So 10 total fights. We've got 3 underdogs for you. Last week we took 6 underdogs. We knew going into it was a huge risk. Did not work out for us. So we're going to dial that back a little bit this week, go with 3 underdogs tonight. Before we get to the cards, though, and again, brought to you by Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com. Use promo code BELLYUPFANTASY for 20% off your next order. A couple things going on in the MMA world this week. Actually, a lot of things happening. Fights announced. Let's start by talking about the lightweight division. May 15th, UFC 262 will now be headlined to fill the vacant title for lightweight. Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler. This one was announced earlier this week. Justin Gaethje said, I went to bed expecting to have a contract for me when I woke up in the morning. Did not happen. They give it to Oliveira versus Chandler. Chandler, of course, comes over. He was the Bellator champion, is over, not been in the UFC very long, but he's getting a title shot. Of course, the big question immediately was, well, what about McGregor? Poirier 3. Everyone assumed Poirier was kind of the champ at the moment, but nonetheless, that one gets pushed off as well. Dana said they were hoping to have that fight earlier. It has not been able to get finalized yet, and so he decided to go with Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler for the vacant title in the lightweight. That will headline 262 on May the 15th. That's a stacked card already and will continue to grow, I am sure. UFC also announced May 22nd, Rob Font versus Cody Garbrandt. Corey Sandhagen's going to take on TJ Dillashaw in his return from suspension on May the 8th. And then UFC 261 on April 24th, Usman versus Masvidal is going to be in a sellout crowd in Jacksonville, Florida. Dana said, we will be first, and that's exactly what they plan to be. So Usman Masvidal 261, another stacked card. That will be in Jacksonville, Florida. May 15th, UFC 262 will be in Houston. They expect a large, if not sellout crowd there for those two pay-per-view events. The talk continues with Belal Muhammad and Leon Edwards. Belal saying, I deserve a rematch. Leon said, I'm moving forward. Maybe someday me and Belal can meet again when he moves further up the ranks. I've listened to all the different talking heads on this one, and most everyone says Belal Muhammad deserves an immediate rematch with Leon Edwards. I completely disagree with that philosophy. Leon Edwards was only fighting Belal because no one else would fight Leon, and he needed to get a fight in. And also, of course, he had the mishap as far as losing a fight because of COVID situations, and eventually led to a false retirement. But nonetheless, Belal said, I'll step in. They gave him the Leon fight, the unfortunate events with the eye poke, and that fight obviously ended too early there. But Leon Edwards, he is one of the top fighters in the UFC. He doesn't deserve to be fighting Belal Muhammad, and I don't believe Belal Muhammad deserves another opportunity at this point against Leon Edwards. Leon needs to get a fight. I don't think it's a title fight. I think it needs to be a contender fight, but not a title fight. Give him one more fight to earn that title shot for Leon Edwards. That's what I expect to happen. We'll see exactly what goes down. You never know with the UFC matchmakers exactly what they're going to do. They very rarely do what makes the most sense. Next week will be UFC 260. We've got two titles on the line, Miocic versus Ngannou at heavyweight, Volkanovski versus Ortega at featherweight. Some great fights on the card on not just those, but Tyrone Woodley versus Luque, O'Malley versus Almeida, and the prelim card is very well stacked as well. So UFC 260 next week should be a great week of fights as well. But tonight it's all about Vegas 22. It's all about fight night at Derek Brunson and Kevin Holland. Trailblazer, big mouth, call him whatever you want. He's one of the more entertaining fighters in the UFC. And tonight we get to see him again against a very dangerous Derek Brunson. We've got some big odd numbers here on the night. We'll look at them as we go through the individual fights, but large differences. Montel Jackson's a minus 700 favorite over Jesse Strader, who's at plus 500. Tai Tuivasa is minus 450. Harry Hunsucker's at plus 350. Pretty good range there. And then Cheyenne Bai is at minus 360, and Montserrat Ruiz at plus 280. So there are some bigger spreads here as well, and we'll talk about those as we get into it. We have no extra guests tonight on the program. We've reached out to a few people, but we're unable to make it happen this week. So next week, hopefully for 260, we'll have some great guests for you again. And hoping, we're working already on getting Harry Hunsucker, no matter what happens tonight, to have him to give some intake on his last-minute step in for this card this evening and the events surrounding what all goes into those last few days. So hopefully next week we'll have an interview with you from Harry Hunsucker talking about his fight with Tai Tuivasa and all the information leading around it. So without a guest tonight, we're going to go ahead and jump right into the picks this evening and get you ready for everything that is coming with UFC Fight Night Vegas 22. Again, this is the Belly Up MMA Show, and we are presented by Manscaped. We're really excited to be partnering with them. And again, proper grooming requires precision-engineered tools. Not only does a man's sensitive areas require it, but hygiene demands it. Combining third-generation innovations in design, power, and hygiene, the Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer with skin-safe technology is the perfect tool for an incredible grooming experience. The diamond-textured no-slip grip, an LED light, and compact design help you navigate all your nooks and crannies. Visit manscaped.com and use the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY to get 20% off your next order. Again, manscaped.com, promo code BELLYUPFANTASY to get 20% off your next order. Now let's get right into the picks. We're going to start in the prelims, where we've got JP Buys, the husband of Cheyenne, versus Bruno Silva. Let me get you the numbers here. We've got them posted for you so you can see exactly what the situation is. Silva at plus 125, JP Buys at minus 150. Bruno Silva is 10-5-2, and he's coming off 2 straight losses. He's had 3 fights in the UFC. He's 0-2-1 no contest here in the UFC so far. He is 31 years old. Both of his UFC losses came in 2020, and both of them were by unanimous decision. He comes from the same gym as Henry Cejudo and the Korean Zombie. He's got a lot of experience in the professional fight world, but so far in the UFC has not yet found success. JP Buys, he is 9-2, and he is on a 5-fight win streak, but this is his UFC debut. He is 24 years old, has a 2-inch height advantage, a 1-inch reach advantage. He was on the Dana White Contender Series back in November, where he finished with a round 1 win via guillotine choke. JP Buys in his professional career has never, I repeat, never gone to decision. Tonight's MMA Belly Up MMA Show pick for the first fight of the night, we're going with JP Buys, the favorite at minus 150. He just has a lot more happening for him right now, a lot more active as well, and success here recently. We're going to lean that way over Bruno Silva in this fight. And again, it's going to be an interesting, we'll talk about it more when we get to Cheyenne, I suppose, but with a husband and wife fighting on the same card, you wonder how much that affects the preparation for the fights. You wonder how much it affects the how it's going to affect Cheyenne if JP loses or gets beat up or gets knocked out or something like that. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out together, if it plays out at all in a way that causes anything to affect either JP thinking more about his wife's fight or whatever it may be. JP Buys, he has a significant strike accuracy of 67%, just over that, and takedown accuracy of 60%, which is far better than Silva's on both of those numbers. It's a number I look at a lot when looking at fights, when they're landing significant strikes and when they are effective on the takedowns. And I just think JP Buys has more here than what Silva can hold. Second fight of the evening is one of the bigger odd differences here. Montel Jackson, he is a minus 700 favorite over Jesse Strader. Jesse Strader is 5-1. This is his UFC debut. He's on a 2-fight win streak, and at 29 years old, he comes in with a lot of power. But he hasn't fought in a while. His last fight was back in August of 2019. He has, of his 5 victories, 4 of those are finishes. The one left over is unanimous decision. His one loss came to Marcelo Rojo in round 1, of obviously not in the UFC since this is his debut. Montel Jackson is 9-2. He's 3-2 in the UFC, and he's 1-1 in 2020. He's a year younger at 28 years old, and this guy has some finishing power. He has a massive reach advantage, a 5.5-inch reach advantage over Jesse Strader tonight, a 2-inch height advantage as well. Strader being in his debut, there's a lot less numbers on him. But looking through all the different factors that go into Montel Jackson and being a minus 700 favorite, we're not going to be dumb enough to go against that. Even if Strader wins, it'll be by luck more than likely, as opposed to anything else. Jackson's got a pretty well-rounded game. He does have the finishing power, but he has great takedown offense, 77.78% takedown accuracy, and 4 takedown attempts per average in his fights. So Montel Jackson is just the smart move tonight, and after licking our wounds from last week, we're going to go with smart moves this evening as opposed to the risky ones. The next fight on the prelim card is Trevin Giles versus Roman I'm going to say his name right, Dolidze. And this one is pretty much even. Giles at plus 100, Dolidze at minus 120. Let's start with Roman Dolidze because he is 8-0. That's right, undefeated. 2-0 in the UFC. Both of those fights came in 2020. He is 32 years old, and he is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. Let's see here. Only one of Roman Dolidze's fights went to decision. The rest were all finishes. Trevin Giles is 13-2. He's on a 2-fight win streak. He's 4-2 in the UFC. He is 28 years old. That's 4 years younger than Roman Dolidze. And his 2-0 fights in 2020, Bevan Lewis, he finished him in round 3, and he won a split decision against James Krause. In his 4 UFC victories, 2 were finishes in round 3, and 1 was a round 2 finish. And then his 2 losses both came in round 3, where he was finished in those fights. Dolidze here is kind of the sexy pick. He is undefeated. He looks the part. He is a beast for sure. But nonetheless, the simple fact of the matter is I'm going to go with Trevin Giles in this one. This is one I had to think long and hard of. I wasn't really sure which direction I was going to go there for a while. When the numbers are this even, it makes it a little harder to guess on. But Giles' numbers stick out a little bit more than Dolidze's do. Giles is a 62.48% significant strike accuracy, whereas Dolidze is 60.35, so really close. But on takedown accuracy, Giles is 87.5% versus 60% of Dolidze. So if Giles can get this to the ground and keep it there for a while, I believe that Giles is going to win. And I also believe he's probably going to win by decision on this one, which would only be the second time Dolidze makes it through a full entire fight, even in his undefeated professional career. That's where we're going with it. Feel free to let us know what you think. Trevin Giles and Roman Dolidze, it's going to be one of the closer scored fights more than likely. And so now is the time to tell people where you stand on it. Don't wait till after the fight and go, that's what I thought was going to happen. No, you've got to put it out so people know exactly what your pick is. Don't be that way. And so that's that fight there. We're going with Giles, the slight underdog in this fight. We told you we're going to go smart, so we're not going with the crazy underdogs for the most part this evening. The next fight in the prelims is a very entertaining fight, I think. Grant Dawson versus Leonardo Santos. Santos is plus 170 dog. Dawson, the minus 200 favorite. Grant Dawson, 16-1. He's on a 7-fight win streak, and he is 4-0 in the UFC. He's 27 years old. He was on the Dana White Contender Series in 2017. 7 of his wins have come by rear naked choke, and he's only gone to decision twice in his victories. Leonardo Santos is 18-3-1. He also is on a 7-fight win streak, and he is 7-0-1 in the UFC. He is 41 years old. That's right, 41 years old versus a 27-year-old Grant Dawson. Santos does have a 3-inch reach advantage at 75 inches. He has, in his 7-0 current 7 winning streak, 4 of those fights went to decision. 3 of them were finishes. And he does have a power advantage here. Neither of these fighters have ever lost by submission. Both of these fighters fight hard, and even though Dawson has won multiple times by submissions, and Santos has as well, Neither of them have lost that way. So there's a good chance this fight goes the distance as well, but I believe it's going to be incredibly entertaining. Dawson is better at getting people to the ground, 45.16% there, and his strike accuracy is higher by about 8% there as well, and he lands more per minute. For that reason, we are going to go with the favorite, Grant Dawson, in this fight. But I believe this one could possibly be fight of the night and get a bonus for the action that we see in that. Now we lead to the main fight of the prelim card. There's Marion Renault and Macy Chasson. And we see Chasson is a minus 220 favorite. Renault, a plus 180 dog. Marion Renault is 9-6-1. She is currently on a 3-fight losing streak. She's 5-5 in the UFC. She is 43 years old, the second fighter over 40 on this card. She's 43 years old, 5'6", 68 inches. That'll come in just a minute. Her 5 losses that she's had in the UFC were all by decision. Her 4 of her 5 wins were by finish. So she does not go down easily. When she does lose, it is usually, and not always in the UFC, by decision, but she can finish fights as well. Macy Chasson, she is 6-1. She's 3-1 in the UFC. 29 years old compared to the Marion's 43 years old. 5'11 compared to Renault's 5'6, and a 72-inch reach compared to Renault's 68-inch reach. So she has the age advantage by being younger. She has the height advantage by 5 inches and the reach advantage by 4 inches. She was on The Ultimate Fighter in 2018. Her 3 wins were all finishes. Her last 2 fights were by unanimous decision, 1 win and 1 loss. So again, her only loss has come when she lasted the entire fight also, just as Renault's are the same way. This fight, I was looking at a number of different things. One of the things I look at is age. When you're as old as Renault is at 43 in the fight game, and you're going against someone who has had as much success as Chasson has had, it's hard to go against the younger fighter in this fight. Chasson is known for her power more so than her ground game. And that's where Renault can actually get on top and win this fight if she can take it to the ground and keep it there. She has the advantage over Chasson, but we're not going to go with the older Renault. We're going to go with Macy Chasson to continue our run on favorites here on UFC Vegas 19. And so that's where we're going to land with that one. So on the prelims, our picks are JP Buys, Montel Jackson, Trevin Giles, Grant Dawson, and Macy Chasson are the picks that we have decided to make for the prelim card. Make sure you go ahead and comment on your card, what you have for your picks on this card as well, and let us know what they are. Last week we had some great conversation. I used the word great, not being too serious on going on in the chats and everything like that. So let's keep it civil. But nonetheless, we're going to go on to the main card. A reminder, tonight's Belly Up MMA show is presented by Manscaped, and we're excited to have them on board this evening. Now we're going to get to the main card, and we're going to start off with what could be a very, very fast fight, and it is Tai Bam Bam Tuivasa versus Harry Hunsucker. This fight originally was going to be Don'Tale Mayes, but Mayes had to drop out. So on Wednesday, Harry Hunsucker gets the call. He has been asking for another chance. So he was on the Dana White Contender Series this last year, and he took that fight on 2 days' notice. He showed up to Vegas. He fought Jared Vanderaa. He lost in round 1 to Vanderaa, but he had 2 days' notice. He wasn't in fight shape, but he still said yes. He showed up. He almost knocked out Vanderaa in that fight, and then he just ran out of gas. So now he's coming into this fight on short notice. He found out Wednesday that he was going to be headed to Vegas to fight Tai Tuivasa. The good news is, for Harry at least, is that he is in better shape now than he was when he had the Dana White Contender Series opportunity. Hunsucker is a regional heavyweight champion. He actually just a couple weeks ago retained that championship through HR MMA, Hard Rock MMA, which is a regional professional circuit, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, that kind of region there. And he is 7-3. Harry Hunsucker, the Hurricane, 7-3. He's 32 years old. This is, of course, his UFC debut. And even though he was actually recently asking for another opportunity to be on the upcoming Dana White Contender Series to get another shot at that, instead he gets the call to go ahead and show up right where he needs to be in the UFC, and he's even on the main card. Of course, the reason why he's on the main card, though, is the entertaining Bam Bam Tai Tuivasa that he is fighting. Harry Hunsucker has never made it out of round one as a professional. Never out of round one. He either knocks them out or he gets knocked out, and he's been knocked out 3 times. Tai Tuivasa is 11-3. He's 4-3 in the UFC, 28 years old. He has, let's see here, in his 4-3 record, let's see here, his last fight was round 1 TKO of Stefan Struve. He has 3 round 1 finishes in the past, round 2 finishes twice, and then he has unanimous decisions twice with 1 loss and 1 win as well. Tai Tuivasa, he's telling you what he's going to do. He's going to come out and just try to knock your head off. He's not going to grapple you. He's not going to go after your legs or anything like that. He is just going to do his best to knock you out. And Harry Hunsucker is the exact same way as well. Hunsucker's significant strike accuracy is actually better than Tai Tuivasa, which gives Harry Hunsucker the only chance that he has in beating Bam Bam tonight, because he's going to have to land, and he's going to have to land quick. And the fact that Hunsucker's never been out of the first round makes me assume that this one's going to be over quick as well, because the best game plan against Tuivasa is to kind of move and get out of the way and stretch it out, make him go deeper into the fight as well. But it's just not the game that Hunsucker has. There's a massive weight advantage for Tuivasa. He's gonna weigh in at 265. Hunsucker is around 246, which when he fought Jared Vanderaa was the same way as well. So Hunsucker, but again, Tuivasa's not going to get on top of Hunsucker. He's just going to try to knock him out. So I think it could be a very entertaining fight, albeit a very short fight. And at the plus 350 dog, I shouldn't do this. It's not smart. I wouldn't encourage you to do it, but I'm going to do it. Harry Hunsucker is my pick for the first fight here. I'm going to say that he gets in there. He lands some shots early and is able to do damage to Tai Tuivasa, even though Bam Bam is quite the entertaining guy tonight. All my support goes behind my neighbor, Harry Hunsucker. He's the Hurricane there in his UFC debut. The next fight on the card, Max Griffin versus Song Kenan. And let's start with Max Griffin. He is 16-8. He's 4-6 in the UFC. 35 years old. He debuted in 2016 against Colby Covington. He is 1-1 in 2020. His last fight was a round 3 win. He has a lot of decisions, both wins and losses. Max Griffin typically goes the distance. The underdog at plus 175, Song Kenan, he is 16-5. He's currently on a 2-fight win streak. 31 years old, but he does have a disadvantage with reach, a 5.5-inch disadvantage, as a matter of fact. Song Kenan is 4-1 in the UFC. 3 of those 4 victories were finishes. He only fought once in 2020, but that was a win. Song Kenan has really struggles in takedown defense. He's not great defending as the people are shooting at their legs. And so for that reason, as well as some others, we're going to go with Max Griffin, thinking he'll take his length, his power, and his ability to get to the ground as an opportunity to beat Song Kenan. Kenan's a real interesting fighter. He's been rather entertaining as well in his short time in the UFC, but we're going to lean Max Griffin, the minus 210 favorite in this fight. Next fight on the card is Adrian Yanez versus Gustavo Lopez. This is your classic standing fight versus grappler fight. These guys are 2 opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to that. You see the numbers there. Yanez is a minus 220 favorite. Lopez plus 180 dog. Adrian Yanez is 12-3. He's on a 5-fight win streak. He is 1-0 in the UFC. At 27 years old, he's going to have a height advantage by 2 inches and a reach advantage by 3.5 inches. Yanez was on Dana White's Contender Series back in 2020 in August, and he had a 39-second knockout victory there on the show. His last win was a round 1 win back in October of 2020 after his Dana White Contender Series event. Yanez has the standing advantage. He is a finisher, and he finishes typically through strength, punching, and knees. Gustavo Lopez is 12-5. He's 1-1 in the UFC, and he's 31 years old. His 1-1 in the UFC, both those fights came in 2020. His last fight was a round 1 victory by rear naked choke. That was back in November. His last 4 wins have all come in round 1. Lopez has the ground advantage in this fight. So Yanez the favorite. He's the fighter, the striker, I guess I should say. Lopez has the advantage on the ground. And this is one of our underdog picks. And this is a hard one as well. This did not come quickly. Yanez is a very entertaining fighter. Again, he is aggressive on his feet. Can put on a show that way, but we're going to go with the ground game in this fight, going with Lopez. We think he can get it to the ground. It might be a drag it out kind of fight that goes the distance as well. But we're going to pick Lopez, Gustavo Lopez, the underdog at plus 180 in this fight. That brings us to two more fights, as the co-main event, Gregor Gillespie and Brad Riddell, has been postponed due to COVID protocols, which is going to be, I think, a really entertaining fight. Gillespie hadn't fought since 2019 when he suffered his first loss by knockout. I thought it was going to be a great fight to see. But nonetheless, that one is not there. It was going to be Brad Riddell's first UFC fight when being a true underdog. Also, to see how he was going to react to that, I was interested in, but we'll see it here in a few weeks. So the second to last fight of the night, Cheyenne Baez versus Montserrat Ruiz. And I said it at the beginning of the show tonight. I wonder if JP Baez, Cheyenne's husband, if his fight does not go well, how much she's going to be aware of it and how much it could affect her and her mindset going into this fight against Ruiz. Cheyenne Baez is 5-1. This is her UFC debut. She's coming in off of a 4-fight win streak. She's 25 years old. She'll have a 3-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage over Ruiz. She was on Dana White's Contender Series back in August of 2020, where she won by unanimous decision, and of course got the contract to come and fight this fight at that point as well. She's only had one professional fight that she was able to finish. The rest have all gone to decisions. Montserrat Ruiz, she is 9-1. This is also her UFC debut. She is the number 1 female fighter in Mexico right now coming up that has not yet fought on a major platform. She's 28 years old. I already mentioned she's shorter and has a slight reach disadvantage as well. Her last fight was in Invicta, where she had a round 1 finish for the victory. She is a submission artist out of 10th Planet. She is not going to be easy, but you see the numbers there. Baez at minus 360, Ruiz at plus 280. This was a hard one to research because neither of them have had many. Well, this is her first UFC fight. Baez really was the Dana White Contender Series was the easiest one to find from there as well. So going this way, I'm going to go with Vegas on this one and lean to the favorite and Cheyenne Baez. And I would also be willing to say this one more than likely goes the distance tonight as it leads into the main event this evening. Let's see if they can put on a show to get us ready for the main event. And that's exactly where this one brings us. You're watching the Belly Up MMA Show presented by Manscaped. Proper grooming requires precision-engineered tools. Not only does a man's sensitive areas require it, but hygiene demands it. Combining third-generation innovative design, power, and hygiene, the Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer with skin-safe technology is the perfect tool for an incredible grooming experience. The diamond-textured, no-slip grip LED light and compact design help you navigate all your nooks and crannies. Visit manscaped.com and use promo code BELLYUPFANTASY to get 20% off your next order. That's right. Go to manscaped.com and at checkout, use the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY and you will get 20% off your next order at Manscaped. Now we come to the main event of the evening. Derek Brunson versus Kevin Holland. Let's start with Kevin Holland. He is 21-5. He has the nickname of Trailblazer, but he is also known as Big Mouth. He's on a 5-fight win streak. He's 28 years old. He comes in at 6'3", 81-inch reach. That's a 2-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage. Kevin Holland is best known for going 5-0 in 2020. He's 8-1 in his last 9 fights. In that 5-0 2020 that he took off on, he had 4 finishes, 1 split decision, and 3 of those finishes were in round 1. He is maybe the most entertaining fighter currently in the UFC. Tonight, though, it's not about entertainment. It's about winning. And he's facing off against Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson is 21-7. He's on a 3-fight win streak. He is 37 years old, 9 years senior to Kevin Holland. Back in August of 2020, Brunson won in round 3 ground and pound against Edmund Shabazian. In 2019, he had 2 unanimous decision wins against Heinisch and Theodore. In 2018, he had 2 round 1 losses to Adesanya and Souza. He has fought a lot of good fighters. Kevin Holland has not fought the same talent that Brunson has fought in his career. Derek Brunson has 7 round 1 wins, finishes as well, in his 12-5 UFC record. Brunson is a legit threat. He is talented. He is gifted. He is, you can say as many nice things as you want to about Brunson. He's the plus 150 dog in this one. To be honest with you, I just can't go against Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland's 2020 was incredible. He is active as can all be. Derek Brunson had 1 fight in 2020. But Holland's 2020 was so impressive. And even though he has not fought the same talent as Brunson has, which has prepared Brunson for this fight, I'm still leaning Kevin Holland in this one. At minus 175, that's not a major favorite. But nonetheless, he is the favorite on this hot win streak right now. Everything's behind him. Obviously, Brunson is trying to do his part to shut him down and to end this streak and to end all the hype around Kevin Holland and try to boost his name a little bit to get some more opportunities. But I think after this victory, Holland continues to climb his way up the board and eventually, I think continually will be a main event, obviously, and soon looking for at least a title shot or a contender shot there as well. I enjoy the Kevin Holland fights. I enjoy listening to the after the fights when you can listen to all the things that he said during the fight and all that goes in with it. But I'm putting my support behind Kevin Holland tonight, and he is my pick. So I'll give you the rundown of the picks tonight for UFC Vegas 22. You are watching the Belly Up MMA Show presented by Manscaped. My picks tonight in order, starting from the first fight to the last fight. I'm going JP Buys, Montel Jackson, Trevin Giles, Grant Dawson, Macy Chasson, Harry Hunsucker in a major upset, Max Griffin, Gustavo Lopez, he's a dog as well, and Kevin Holland. We'll put these picks out on our podcast Twitter page at Sports Stove for you to hold us up to these picks as well. Next week's fight, it's UFC 260, Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou for the heavyweight title, Volkanovski versus Ortega for the featherweight title. Also included on the card is Woodley and Luque, O'Malley and Almeida in there as well, including great prelim fights. And we'll be right here live on Belly Up Fantasy for picks and previews of that fight card as well. So make sure you tune in and are ready for that one. But tonight, it's all about Holland and Brunson, but some great fights as well. Fights I think you need to watch out for. Trevin Giles and Roman Dolice. That fight's going to be a great fight. I believe Tai Tuivasa and Harry Hunsucker is going to be a fast fight. They open up the main card tonight as well. And then, of course, the main event, I think Holland and Brunson is going to be incredibly entertaining as well. Thank you for tuning in to the Belly Up MMA Show presented by Manscaped tonight. We surely appreciate you tuning in and hope that you'll tune in again next week as well, right here on Belly Up Fantasy, both on Twitter, Periscope, and Facebook, right here for you. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you go visit bellyupfantasysports.com and bellyupsports.com as well. All kinds of great information there as we head into baseball season. We're still in the middle of basketball season. Great stuff on bellyupfantasysports.com. So make sure you tune in there as well. Thank you for tuning in tonight, and we'll see you next week